Sean Couturier were skating, and we know that Elise Couturier has been skating. What is kind of the latest on their statuses?
Just that. They started skating. I have no report or any information as far as other than that.
With regards to the two guys that were out, Brendan was back out on the ice, Wade wasn't. Is Wade's absence looking more long-term, or is he still day-to-day?
I would, again, I haven't talked to Tommy at length, but I would figure day-to-day.
Do you believe there's like any chance Sean Couturier could play this year? Like, do you know anything along that lines?
No,
Okay.
haven't even thought about it.
Is heading into this homestand, is it different for you because of the changes at the top, or do you approach it the exact same ways you would have otherwise?
No, we're going to try to get ready as we've done right on through. Put the lineup we think that deserves to be out there and try to win a hockey game. Nothing else changes. I'm just going to coach.
John, I know Denoy and Forster were here on emergency situation, but still was it tough to send them back? And how tough is that to balance whether they get the experience of playing the playoff race with the Phantoms or getting experience here?
Well, hopefully they get both. We've got a couple of belts, a couple of games under their belt. Not sure what we're going to do today. May see one of them back. I don't know. But it's very important that they do go through that playoff run as far as their development. I think they've both played pretty good in the games they've played here. Maybe somewhere along the way, look at some other guys, depending on the call-up situation. These guys are on emergency, so we haven't burned any call-ups. But we have to balance that. I've talked to Danny. We've talked at length. I think we both want to see some other kids. When and if that happens, I'm not sure.
I know your focus is up here with this team, but how encouraging is it to see where Lehigh is right now and the fact that they are in a good spot and making a push?
Yeah, I think it's, I coached in the league for a couple of years. I watch players go through a playoff run, and then it just catapults them to the National Hockey League. I watched a goaltender do that, and I watched a few other players that ended up really giving a good foundation. So they got to get in. I'm not sure exactly where they stand as of this morning, and then hopefully go on a long one. I think it's really important. It's such a great training league to get them back here to the National Hockey League.
Both you and Lappy had mentioned when you first got here how excited you two were to work with each other. What has that relationship been like to this point, and what is it like now that you're starting to look at these call-ups and talk about that situation?
Yeah, we really haven't talked too much. You go into the year. I am probably the worst coach at it, calling down. You get your blinders on, and you so many things going on with your team. He's doing the same thing. But we've talked, through Danny, through Chuck, how some of them were going, what they needed to work on, where they were improving. I think he's done a terrific job. We've got some kids come up here. I think he did a terrific job with Yorkie. And the kids that have come up here, and hopefully some more, they come up and play. They're ready to play. He puts a lot of time into it, him and his staff, as far as teaching them what it is to be a pro. They have that schedule down there where they can do some different things during the week and teaching. I think they've done a terrific job. And been there in where you're trying to fight to get in. They keep pushing along there, and I'm not sure how many games they have left, but it's getting close. It looks like they may get in.
John, you've talked in the past about the importance of meaningful games in terms of evaluating players up here, and you learn things about them. You've coached down in the AHL. I guess, does the AHL, even though it's not the NHL, does it have that same benefit in terms of evaluation? Is it less important? How does that work?
You know what? It's an interesting question, because I think players sometimes may not perform as well there as they would in the National Hockey League, especially for defensemen. I think defensemen positioning from your other teammates, just your concept as far as guys being in position for defensemen is so important to make it an easier job for them. There are a number of situations where you're evaluating there, but he comes to the National Hockey League, he's a better player. So you got to be really careful how you go about it down there as evaluating, because a little bit more chasing the thing around and not as much positioning. You get a lot of young kids and trying to teach it, but you have to be careful. I think one of the biggest things you evaluate down there is just the will. Is he coachable? Is he sore or is he injured all the time? Is it an injury or is he sore and he just can't play because he's sore? You find out about people that way. Within the play itself, you're certainly evaluating, but I think you need to be careful until you get him to the National Hockey League when there's a better circumstance around him to make that final evaluation. If that explains it.
Sorry, earlier in the year you said Danny Briere had a brilliant mind.
Yes.
The way he sees the game, what stands out about him, the way he sees it?
Well, he's played the game. Danny and I have talked a lot on in the weakest part of our organization, the offensive part of it. And I've asked a number of questions of him with some of our guys as they're struggling offensively. What does he see? The thing I think we'll see with Danny, he's a deep thinker. I don't think it's reactionary. I think he'll see things, and I think he has the ability to transform it back to what he was doing at that time as a player, because he played in the league and was such a good player in the league, to maybe understand a little bit better as especially in the evaluation process, to see how guys are moving along. So, I've known him for so long. I think he's a student also. He doesn't think he has all the answers. He's a student also, and I'm really, as much as I'm disappointed in not being with Chuck, I'm just that excited working with Danny. We're very fortunate. The organization's been very fortunate to have Chuck and Danny here together. Now, Chuck is gone and Danny's here, so anxious to work with him.
You mentioned the other day that you coached him early in his career. When you saw him kind of first coming into the league, how much of the same hockey mind person did you see in him?
Oh, he had no clue when he broke in. He had no clue when he had a very busy life going on. Kids very young. And he was on a team full of characters out there in Phoenix. We had a group of. It was an interesting day every day with some of the players we had, and but the thing I always have respected about Danny in not being a big man. He played in the areas all the time, right from the get-go. He played in the areas all the time, and not only a very skilled guy, but he had the wherewithal to know that you can't be on the outside. And I think that's probably part of the reason why he was trying to, a couple of years ago with TK, he brought it to his attention he was on the outside. So he could play the game a lot of different ways, and I've always respected that about him.
He's only 45 years old. Did you ever say that? Wow, this is pretty impressive.
No kidding, 45 years old.
For how young he is, that he's getting a chance to be.
Young man's game.
Yeah.
Young man's game in the business part of it, in the front office part of it. But you know what? It depends what the maturity like. Your age is your number. I think he's done his time and really working at this part of it. I think he's mentioned to you guys he's always thought about this part of the game, and he's done his time. And the quality type person he is, and just how humble he is, he wanted to learn. I'm sure, and Danny has his convictions. He's very strong that way, but he has the mindset that not only prior to him being named here, even now, he wants to learn. And I think if you think you have all the answers and you stop learning, that's when you're booted pretty quickly.
Going back to a player that we talked to you about, I think about a week and a half ago, is Cam York. You had given him a break, basically to give him a chance to reset, and also because you were seeing some issues with him not being assertive enough in his mindset. I'm curious, since he's been back in the lineup, if you've seen improvements in that area.
Okay, yeah, I see the game. The part of the game that we're going to have to work with Cam is is his stick, because he's not a big man, and the defending part of it, which is going to take some time, and is teaching him, and I think Shazi is one of the best at it, in body position, not trying to always close and finish a check, always have your stick ready to go to get the puck off the player, because he's going to get out-muscled probably a majority of the time with some players, because he's just not that big. But he's got a great attribute in his legs and his maneuverability. Now he's got to learn how to use his stick at certain times to break up plays. The other part of his game, offensively, that's going to be me. I'm going to stay on him. I still don't think it's consistent enough. Whether it's he's afraid he's going to get caught up the ice or mistakes or whatever, I think we'll get there. I think he has to understand me a little bit. But that needs to be his strength, is staying in the offense and creating things, and not being afraid to stay in it. I think he's going to, through experiences, learn that he can maybe sit in a corner, maybe in that weak side corner when the forecheck's over here, and anticipate they can get me the puck here, or whatever it may be. Danny Boyle was one of the best. I always use Danny Boyle because he was such a good anticipator as far as when to stay in the offense. I think through experiences, Cam's going to get that. And he's got the God-given ability a lot of people don't have. He has the legs, and he's got good hands. So defensively, Shazi, a lot to learn there. They're expected to have some ups and downs there. Offensively, it's me trying to change his mindset to be aggressive.